Hi, I'm James Prey, and I'm going to read to you from the opening pages of my new novel, Jonesy Flux and the Grey Legion. See, it's about this girl, Jonesy Archer. Jonesy Archer? What's Jonesy Flux, then? Well, you'll have to find out, won't you? It's actually why I wrote the story. See, a couple of years ago, I was in the middle of editing a 1,000-page-long, serious, grown-up novel, when along comes this character, as they sometimes do to us writers. And it's this 11-year-old redhead, and she kind of knocks on my brain and says, "Hi, I'm Jonesy, and this is how my story starts out. Would you like to see how it turns out?" And I thought about it, and had space, and spaceships, and aliens, and adventures, and exploring, and explosions, and crazy boss fights. And I took that 1,000-page novel, and I said, in a drawer. Yes, let's do it, and I am so glad I did. So I'm going to read the opening pages for you here and introduce you. Prologue. A long way from here, and a long time from now, there was a star named Naraza. Naraza's system had 5 planets. 4 were small, gray, and rocky, and didn't even have names, but the 5th was a huge lemon-yellow gas giant named Amberius. Amberius had wavy gold stripes and long, creamy swirls, and strings of white storms that looked like pearls, at least from a distance. Amberius also had 2 rings around it. The first ring was made of ancient dust and pieces of ice. The second, however, was made of new dust and pieces of space station. 3 years ago, the pieces floating around the second ring had been put together properly in one place, and that place had been a research station called Canary. Exobiologists had started Canary Station so that they could drop probes and drones into Amberius's stormy yellow clouds to study the alien creatures that lived in them. Amberius had animals like blimps with tails, and plants like 1,000-foot wads of crumpled green tissue paper, and even a few flying mile-long see-through eels, and none of them needed to touch the ground even once in their whole lives, which was good, because Amberius didn't have anywhere they could land. Amberius's creatures were the only things you couldn't find somewhere besides Naraza for much less trouble. But they weren't the only reason scientists had come to Canary. Some had moved there because their work was too secret, dangerous, or strange to do anywhere that wasn't quiet and lonely. And Naraza was a very quiet and very lonely star. Even so, Canary Station had been a happy place, with sweeping white and yellow halls where children played, big, bright exobiology wings where their parents studied blimps with tails, and a handful of high-security laboratories where a few very smart people studied things that made blimps with tails seem very ordinary. Now, though, Canary Station didn't look like a happy place. It looked like a place where a lot of people had died. And it was. It didn't look like a place where you might still find anyone who, well, hadn't. But it was that too. Part 1. The Castaways of Canary Station. Chapter 1. Jonesy Archer's second-to-last day on Canary Station started off as a day of firsts. For the first time ever, she was the first one on the Canary Station Salvage Team to get her spacesuit on and double-checked, from bubble helmet to magnetized boots. So for the first time, she got to help Trace, her best friend, with his suit computer instead of the other way around. And then, for the first time, she got to wait with her helmet clipped to her belt and watch the other kids checking their readouts and snapping on their gloves instead of hurrying to catch up. Jonesy had blue eyes, too many freckles to count, and curly red hair she wore tied back in a bushy ponytail, because otherwise it was just bushy. She was 2.5 if you counted in local years, or 11 if you counted the legal way. She preferred being 11, but she was the youngest kid on the Salvage Team either way. Jonesy was also small for her age, which was why she got to be a salvager in the first place. She could squeeze through gaps too tight for the big kids. Canary Station had lots of those, so squeezing through them was her job. Everybody in the crew had to have a job. Even little Davenport Jr. and the Gifford cousins, the only kids younger than Jonesy, had jobs. Rook said everybody's job helped the crew somehow, so everybody's job was important, whether that was tending strawberries and kale in the hydroponics patch like Cowrie, rebuilding scrubbers and recyclers like Nikita and Terry, or wiping your own drawings off the hideout walls like Davenport Jr. Jonesy, though, thought salvaging was the best job of all. Nobody helped the crew more than the salvage team. She didn't care that she came back exhausted most afternoons, or that she'd almost died 14.5 times since Rook had found a proper spacesuit her size and recruited her. Rook Lopez was the crew's leader, and the captain of the salvage team besides. This was partly because he was 17, which made him the oldest, and partly because he was smart and fair and almost always right. He wasn't the tallest boy in the crew, but he was stronger than anybody, with short black hair and intensely dark, serious eyes. He was always the first out when the salvage team left, and always the last to return. Today, though, for the first time Jonesy had seen, Rook wasn't there in the airlock with them getting ready, and when he arrived, he wasn't suited up. "Little change of plans," he announced. "You're heading out without me this morning." So, there you go. If you want to find out what happens next, you'll have to keep reading. I can give you a hint. Jonesy has a secret she doesn't know about, and it is about to turn her life upside down. Thanks again for joining me. If you'd like to learn more about the book, get free bonus materials, or get in touch, please visit me on my website at jamespray.com, or find me on Twitter. Thank you.